Say, go. Go. Victoria here with Take the Lead Canine Training, and you're watching episode number 7 of Foster Dog Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Foster Dog Friday is a program that's all about helping people who adopt dogs, rescue dogs, foster dogs, or just really like dogs with behavioral issues. The number one reason that dogs are returned to shelters or found unadoptable or taken to shelters in the first place is because, typically, behavioral issues. And the good news is most behavioral issues are actually pretty easy to fix. It just involves us finding the right information and then as the human applying it. So that's the idea with this program. Make sure to check back at our previous videos as well. We've got a bunch regarding things like resource guarding, introducing a new dog to the group, lots of great stuff that can really help you as an owner or as a foster get information to help you with your dog. So today's program is about owning your space. And what I mean by owning your space is setting boundaries for dogs, because believe it or not, there are a lot of things that we get, like jumping and barking and nipping and growling and biting and lots of bad stuff too, that we are unintentionally encouraging through other opportunities where we aren't owning our space. What I mean by that is there's a lot of times where maybe our dog isn't necessarily being bad, but they're coming into our personal space bubble and we are immediately sharing affection with them. So they come in uninvited, whether it's to come up and nuzzle under your hand with their nose, or pull on your pants, or paw you, or come up and lean on you, or stick their head between your legs. You know, you kind of probably with your dog can imagine a couple different scenarios. Every dog's a little bit different how they do the pay attention to me moves, but generally a dog coming in and touching you in your space, when it's time to be sweet and we want to share affection with our dog, it seems pretty okay. It's not a big deal. Then all of a sudden we wonder, like, why are we struggling with jumping? Why am I struggling with my dog nipping or growling at me? Why am I struggling with my dog jumping on other guests, nipping around other guests, trying to take things off my plate or take things off my table? Generally, it's because we've actually not set boundaries that the dog fully understands. If you look at dogs in a social scenario, I talk about my old Greyhound Ramses because he's really great about setting boundaries for dogs when they first come in, particularly pushy young puppies. When you watch dogs in a social group, you'll see how they communicate with each other. They use body language, they use verbal, right, with barking or snapping. They use a lot of eye contact. There's a lot of things that communicate, I need you to respect my space bubble. I talk about my Greyhound Ramses, I mentioned him earlier, because he'll come in a yard and he's a very social dog. He'll walk around with the other dogs, and then if a young puppy comes up and gets too pawy in his space, they jump on his back, he will turn around and correct them. He's not biting them, he's not like chasing them around the yard. What he's doing is issuing a fair correction that is setting a boundary. And typically what happens is the puppy's like, whoa, he apologizes in a kind of scurry off fashion, but then approaches again later, a little bit softer, a little more polite, and Ramses is like, okay, now you can smell me. He's a really good like law setter, so it's really nice to have him in my pack. But when I talk about Ramses, I'm talking about the fact that he's setting a boundary. He's saying, this is how I expect you to behave around me. It's not okay for you to come into my space uninvited. If you come up politely, yes, I'll give you the opportunity to smell my butt or sniff my mouth or whatever. So I want us to think about this as a human to dog scenario. Unfortunately, most dogs do not respect human space. That's the bottom line. It's not because we're unintentionally doing it. It's not because we like to just get mad at our dogs when they jump on us and then love to hug them when they don't. I mean, it's unintentional rewarding of entering space without permission. So I want you to think about things. Obviously, yes, we need to correct jumping. We need to correct growling and nipping and biting people. But we can't correct that stuff if we're not addressing the little moments where our dog is actually being pushy to us, when we don't have our guard up, when we're relaxing with our dog. So I just want you to think, you have a personal space bubble and you can ask your dog to enter it, but your dog entering it on their own, and a lot of dogs do because they're being a little pushy, we need to set that boundary. So that means if your dog comes up to you and really starts nuzzling under your hand or pawing you, we need to correct that, whether that's with physically touching them, if you're training them with a training collar, issuing a correction there. But we need to set a boundary that's like, look, I will invite you into my space, but you can't just demand me whenever you want me. I want you to think about it like this, ladies. If you're okay with it in your jeans, but then you're in your, pantyhose going out for the night, or your Sunday morning get up or whatever, and then your dog comes up and paws you, it's like, oh, it's not okay now. But we've never set the boundary that says you're not allowed to just, come up and demand attention from me like that. This doesn't mean that we can't have fun with our dogs. Actually, what this is going to do is set a boundary that says, like, I need to respect human space a little bit more. I'm sure your dog respects other animals' space. I'm sure your dog typically, if you have a bold cat in your house, respects your cat's space, because cats set boundaries really fast. It's just something that lacks between human and dog, and unfortunately, because it's lacking, we unintentionally encourage our dog to be disrespectful of humans. Again, I don't think dogs are out maliciously trying to conquer the world. That's not what this is about. But unfortunately, we are empowering and encouraging behaviors that do come across and kind of take control of our life, and teach our dog that, yes, humans don't have a personal space bubble. I don't have to respect it. I can jump on them. I can jump on little humans. I can jump on old humans. I can jump on everybody. Or I can bark and lunge at little humans. I can bark and lunge at old humans. I can bark and lunge at men in hats, because I don't understand how to respect human space. So I want you guys to think about that and think about how you're interacting with your dog. A great way to set boundaries for your dog: teach your dog place command. Teach him to go and stay in a spot so that you can sit on the couch and all of a sudden don't have a dog in your lap. Again, this isn't about not like being buddies with your dog or petting your dog or sharing affection. I think most people give too much affection to their dog and not enough direction. So that's something we got to think about, guys. Are we sharing enough rules and boundaries with them, or are we just cuddling and spoiling them? We've got to remember, they aren't for babies, they aren't for kids. They are dogs, as cute as they are, as fabulous as they look, right? Ginger's a gorgeous looking like royalty pretty girl, but she's an animal with teeth, and she's an animal that can jump, she's an animal that can bite, she's an animal that can play fetch, and she's an animal that can scare the stew out of somebody if she's not trained right. So again, we've got to set boundaries for these guys. So when I talk about them not being fur babies and fur kids, it's just their dogs, and we should appreciate that they're dogs. We love them because they're dogs, but we've got to understand we have to set boundaries for them, because if we don't, they're going to try and figure out their way in the world, and unfortunately, it's going to encourage behaviors you don't want. So if you're struggling with things like jumping, nipping, barking, biting, growling, pushy stuff from your dog, stealing things right off of your plate, I want you to take a look at all those moments when they're not doing that stuff and see, are they kind of pushing into my space? Are they pushing past me? Are they demanding attention from me? Even if it's not physically, if they're sitting in front of me barking for attention, that's an issue. That's an issue that needs to be addressed. So it's all about relationship, guys. We have to share the right information with our dogs so we can have the best relationship. Again, behavioral issues are the #1 reason dogs are in shelters. So that's what this is about. Teaching our dogs how to be good canine citizens so they can stay in our homes and be excellent members of society. All right, guys, kind of a quick one. I hope you enjoyed it. Ginger was a trooper. She's taking a nap. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Look out for next week. Bye.